think the Na'vi language is going to be involved in the sequels?
I think that
If at all.
I'm trying to be careful on what I can and can't say. The Na'vi language will definitely have a presence, in the sequels, and we're going to count on Paul and others to help us out. And one of the things that I have always been excited about is I would like there to be a day, listening, Paul, where over here the Webster dictionary is that thick, and the Na'vi one is the same size. That's what I'd like to see.
We're working on it.
There you go.
Yes, thank you to everyone in this room who is getting us closer to that goal. Much appreciated.
Tell the folks at Fox that too.
No, but in all honesty, Britton, I think it's been very interesting in our discussions with Fox about our ongoing interest in growing the story world. I think that the robust nature of the language community in the Avatar fandom has been both surprising and very exciting to them. And it's the kind of example that really gets them excited about investing and growing the overall story world. The fact that people are that engaged on something that starts off as one piece of a very large puzzle and takes on a life of its own and has its own organic growth, that's fairly unprecedented, and it's the kind of thing that gives everybody a sense of the potential of this.
And I think as we start marching through the sequels, you'll see, Kathy, Brooks, and others being the impetus to drive the growth of that.
Mm-hmm. So thanks in advance for your help, everybody.
Yep.
The Na'vi language isn't written, right?
There,
Because I noticed on Neytiri's bow, it seems like there's some things etched into it. It looked like some kind of characters. I was just curious if there was...
there's no written Na'vi language. But that's not to say that, that they're not things that they carve as a skill, that they're as artists, that ways to remember things. There's, there are other ways that they have to keep track of it. They just don't have a written language as we know it. It's not to say they don't use things like hieroglyphics, to have recorded things in the past. So.
Yes. Humans have had to write it down in order to be able to learn it and teach it to others, but that's a human issue, not a Na'vi issue.
I have a question on, because I always wondered when Neytiri is teaching Jake to shoot the bow, what is the fletching on his arrow? It's sort of translucent, and we know they're not feathers there, so.
We do?
What do they use for
We
fletching?
might have to see the sequels. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
It looks like an insect wing on some of the arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I thought.
First of all,
rough that's
Rings
sort of
here.
different.
After today,
Yeah.
I now know that there are feathers on Pandora.
Because Sarah has such beautiful ones.
No, but actually, and Ray Perez, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but while we did not see specifically any creatures at this stage of their evolution that had feathers, I think some of the garments during the battle sequence had feathers and the likes. True, Ray, or no?
Yeah, Jake's hairdress has feathers.
Yes.
So
And they keep
there's a whole rest of the world for
They
you guys
came
to
from
discover.
somewhere.
You haven't seen it all yet.
Exactly. Oh, you little people.
Or it could be a plant with feather-like leaves. We never know.
There you go. Exactly.
Exactly.
Dylan, quiet. No, just kidding.
Now it's going to be on the front page of the New York Times.
You may not be able to say much about this, but I noticed that for the first movie, he pulled so much from the oceans to design the plants and the animals. Since the second one is going to feature the oceans, what is he going to pull from? It was just a curious. I'm like,
That's a great
not
question.
much on land works well in water, but what works in the sky can work underwater. Any thoughts?
Well,
There are a lot of thoughts, not a lot I can share.
Here's what I would say. I think, on the first film and on the sequels, nature has been a great inspiration to us. And the idea of taking things and playing them out of context, out of scale, out of perceived color ranges, that are perceived uses, is something that I think,
Certainly.
works as a consistent theme throughout the world of Pandora.
Yeah, because one thing we learned in the first film is that no matter how much we want to design, nature is an infinitely better designer than we are. And so we're going to continue to mine that to the best of our abilities.
So I think that and I think that there are things that might be perceived. We might know from the oceans, but perceived in a different way. And see them in the oceans, you see them in a different light. I think there are things that you might see that come from land that on land they seem so insignificant or commonplace, and you place them underwater and do something unusual with them, and it's suddenly like a wow factor. So.
Can we have one shot of the jungle taking over that god-awful strip mine?
No comment.
How about all those gates?
On the home front, you guys going
My kids are well, thank you.
for home entertainment, you guys going to go into UHD, like the 4000?
Again, I think we have to wait to see everything is changing so quickly.
It does.
And for us to say something in that area where we're going to go, Robbie and Jeff Burdick and the other people in that group, they stay on top of all of that stuff for us. So when the time is right, we're going to see, what's out there. When Avatar, came out, we made certain decisions to be on certain platforms digitally, and others we didn't want to be on because we didn't think they were quite there yet to our creative, quality levels. So we'll wait and play that by ear.
Stephen Lang was such a great villain. I'm just wondering what you're going to do to match that or top it.
Well, we made a very good decision on how to match that. Go ahead, ask me what it is. I can even tell you what it is.
What is it?
We're bringing him back. Stephen Lang's coming back, so.
But he's dead.
Well, you know what? Now I can't tell you anything. Now you gotta go.
Stephen Lang is very much
But
alive.
if you want a villain that's as good as Stephen Lang was, it's really good to start with Stephen Lang. So we're doing that.
Do you have any scenery left for him to chew, though? I mean,
Let me tell you, you give Stephen anything. I went not too long ago. Stephen does a one-man show where he plays 8 to 12 Medal of Honor winners by himself. And these and you asked the question about tolerance and all these things. He plays different ethnicities as he goes through this play. And to watch him do this and the transformation of each of these characters that he brings on, it was really, phenomenal. And one of the characters, he plays African American, he plays Asian people, and one of the people he plays was a senator from Hawaii, Senator Inouye, who was a Medal of Honor winner. And another gentleman he played was an African American gentleman who, in World War II, there was a big question of them donating blood and people having an aversion, of whether they would accept blood from black people in terms of a situation. And Stephen wrote in this incredibly powerful scene where the senator met one of the African American soldiers from World War II. And this guy who had talked in his writings about how he felt where people were nervous about using the blood. And the senator thanked him because it was his blood from his troop that saved his life during the war. And Stephen pulls this off beautifully on stage, and it's a great lesson in tolerance and acceptance.
Is he going to be very tolerant and accepting in the Avatar sequel?
Kathy, why ask a question I cannot answer?
Just a taunt or something.
A little.
So, when the Avatar game was about to be released, there was a lot of talk about we're going to use assets from the movie, we're going to make it very immersive, and it's going to be a very atmospheric experience, unlike very much you've seen before. And the opinion of many is that the game still adhered to very many classic gamey concepts that might have clashed with the more common messages and themes of Avatar. as an example, it was still a very heavy focus on fighting and combat, which to very many isn't really the main focus of Avatar as an experience. How do you think that played out, and do you think you can learn anything from that in making further titles through the game media?
Look, I think, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think any of us were thrilled with the game we ended up with. I think we learned, you know, a lot of lessons going through that process, one of which was in the middle of making a movie, we didn't have the resources on our side to support the development and the design of a game so that it conformed as best as it possibly could to what we wanted to do. That's why we have Kathy. That's why we have Brooks, who will be, you know, intimately, you know, involved in that. And I think one of the things that technology is allowing us today is to have a diversified portfolio where we don't need to try and do everything in one thing, but identify what is the intent of this, but also deliver something else that delivers for a different, you know, perspective. You know, it's a little bit hard, let's be honest, to have a video game that has no action in it. So how do you?
Although it's been done and
It
successfully.
has definitely been done.
Absolutely.
I might add that I think it is very, very exciting to think about the possibilities, like through being interactive in such a way, the game medium is really, really
Right, but that goes back to what I was saying about the diversity, that rather than trying to do one thing that solves everybody's interests, to create a diversified portfolio where you can reach all these different people, because different people, some people, I'm just, you know, on the broad side, some people are interested in the language, some people are interested in the creatures, some people are interested in all these other things, and we have the ability today to sit back and say, okay, here's what we've learned, how do we go and deliver so that people can find what they want to find and experience what they want to experience.
Yeah. And Brooks had to step away for a second, but this would be a great thing to talk
He had to go to
him
the
about.
bathroom.
This would be a great thing to talk with him about, but we're committed to thinking about games not as one single game that's supposed to be for everybody,
Right.
that's probably going to be mostly a battle game because that's what sells. That is not the business we are in. The nice thing about being Avatar is that we have the opportunity to do more than one thing and to really think about the breadth of our fan base and what are the kinds of gaming experiences, mobile, PC, console, across all platforms, across all kinds of gameplay, that our fans around the world would be interested in. The nice thing about having this level of scale is that we can be successful across multiple categories. It's tricky because most games from films are the game of the film. And those do not tend to be critically very high rated or, quite frankly, really fantastic gameplay experiences.
We can look at Star Wars. That's exactly it. You know, a lot of Star Wars games have done really, really well, and it's because they're based on a franchise and a universe rather than a specific movie.
Yep.
Right, and that's what we want to do. And the other key is for Kathy Brooks to find partners who share that same objective,
Yes.
because that's the only time it'll work.
Who are as passionate about this story world as we are, and who believe that there are ways to be in it and explore it and have deep immersive experiences that are not necessarily all about one side killing the other side more or less effectively. Because that's a gameplay that a certain part of the industry really likes, needs, and wants, and there's a place for that. But there's also the rest of this entire opportunity that we very, very much plan to explore.
Oh wow, that's back to that question.
I work for PlayStation, and I'm intimately familiar with video games going back 2 decades now. The primary key to finding a good studio is doing kind of like your cast picking process.
That's right.
Different studios work to different calibers of production and design and development, fun factor, art asset management, that sort of stuff, and quality control. And while Ubisoft has some popularity with their Assassin's Creed franchise, their quality control is very feeble. And you have with Star Wars, their success has been primarily with the Knights of the Old Republic type of stuff, which is a completely isolated studio. They weren't directly linked with LucasArts or anything like that, and they went in their own direction and even created their own entire mythology that used a lot of what Star Wars mythology had, and then made this game that was very successful based off of some very creative thought processes. But unfortunately, Raymond Zyka, who founded that company, left, and so I don't know if they're as good as they used to be.
But let me just tell you that I think it's fair to say that Brooks and Kathy have literally traveled the globe in searching for the right partners. So just know that is happening. You know, and Carol Henry can attest because she pays for it. So she's still here, but no, we understand that, and it's a casting call, and again, I think it's fair to say that no one company might be the right solution for all the variety of things that it is our objective to do in that space.